So today, guys, we are talking about what is going on. So at the moment, we all thought, well, right, maybe we were kind of going down the past couple of like days, weeks. Is it because of earnings? Is it because of the Fed? Is it because of a strong dollar? But now we have solid earnings, but the markets are falling, even in the stock market. And so I'm here to talk about exactly what is going on and also how Bitcoin is going to be reacting to this and why we will see a little bit more downside in the short term. It's risk off mode engaged, guys. Strap in, make sure you like the video before we get started, and then we will go through everything that's going on. So obviously, as we all know, we're 30 minutes into the trading day in the US. New York Stock Exchange is in fact open. We saw a bit of a movement to the downside initially for the indices like the stock market. Obviously, I mean, S&P, etc. And so that has kind of slowed. It's now recovered slightly. And with Bitcoin, we are seeing a little bit of an increase over the past 24 hours. You can see this just slight changes at the moment following the traditional markets in terms of reducing the level at which we're at this downside. But it's not been a good day, ultimately. Some of the worst hit are, the likes of XRP, Cardano, Solana. I mean, Solana's had too many attacks recently. I still don't really think maybe it doesn't deserve to be at $30. I don't know, especially when you see Cardano falling as well, like drastically. But anyway, so just looking at Bloomberg, as you can see, everything is down. Yeah, but well, 0.8% on the Nasdaq, 0.6 on the S&P 500, the Dow 0.2. But there's not really too much to take note of. One thing I will say is that the Nasdaq is actually. Let me do this, and I know you probably can't see anything. Let me change this. So yes, I was mentioning here, as you guys can all see it. You know what we're talking about. But we are looking at the likes of earnings actually doing well, and earnings have been, reporting well, but we haven't really seen a positive kickback from that. And that is because of this data we have here. Guys, I always want to make sure that I bring you the exact reason why we see the likes of Bitcoin dropping down. And it is because globally, the sentiment around big investors, institutions, hedge funds, pension funds, whoever, is okay. Let's have a look at what the whole inflation story is. We know that we're worried about it. We know that it's an issue. Now, if we look in the UK, core inflation that came out today, and also CPI, which is this bad boy here. CPI came in at 10.1. Core inflation came in at 6.5. Again, both are ahead of the expectations and of the forecasts. That is very bad news for the UK and anyone who's an investor in the UK. Also, bad news for pretty much everyone. But is that only contained in Europe? The Eurozone. So they had CPI come in at 4.8, which is as expected. Obviously, it's not good, but it is as expected. Let's have a look at North America. Is it contained in the UK, this whole runaway inflation thing? Well, that turns out, no, it's not. And so we can see this by the CPI from Canada that we have here. So core inflation, so month over month, and then, so year over year, it's running away. So that's 6, and previously it was at 5.8. So it's still on the rise, and that's the concern. So that's why we're seeing the markets generally feel a lot of pressure. So we do have some strength in the DXY. Maybe I'll go on to trading. Actually, no, I'll just go on investing.com. You guys will be able to see it. Investing. I'm just going to take me to the Fed rate monitor. I love this website. But we'll just go on to the currencies. Well, before we do that, though, I do want to mention Fidelity have come out actually really bullish about Bitcoin, but just in the longer term. So they said that there is a stark contrast between Bitcoin and fiat currencies. Well, that could be good, could be bad. Everyone loves fiat currencies. Fidelity are a massive asset manager. Maybe they love currencies. We don't know. So stark contrast. In the new high inflation environment, Bitcoin's fixed issuance and supply are of particular importance. So that sounds quite bullish. Therefore, Bitcoin may soon stand in stark contrast to the path of the rest of the world and fiat currencies may take. Namely, the path of increased supply, US, additional currency creation, that's the same thing, and central bank balance sheet expansion, You mean like how the US moved from 4.5 to $9 trillion in a single year? That probably does. I think they might be having a little dig at the US. I have to say that you're going to dig someone without saying it. Just name exactly what they've done and say that it's really stupid. They go on to say more monetary debasement, and the world reserve currency is based in the US. When people talk about debasing the US dollar as the world reserve currency, that's typically a term they use, but it may be needed to alleviate the high debt load among developed economies, because it doesn't matter if you're in $21 trillion worth of debt, Mr. US, when you can print more money. You're not in debt to arguably anyone when you can just keep printing more money. Now, comparatively, Bitcoin remains one of the few assets that does correlate to another, that does not, sorry, correspond to another person's liability, has no counterparty risk, and has a supply schedule that cannot be changed. And this is essentially saying, guys, so if the US is in tons of debt, let's say, and they are owed money from China, they've given some money to China. If China don't pay them, then the US can't pay the people who they need to pay money for. And that's what counterparty risk is. Now, Bitcoin doesn't have that. There's no one saying, oh, yeah, I need my Bitcoin back, because it's just made and it's there, which I think is a really, really refreshing view, especially from Fidelity, who are such a big asset manager. Just moving on quickly, US tax watchdog classifies NFT as digital asset for tax purposes. The IRS could begin to tax NFTs as it has classified them as digital assets alongside virtual currencies in its updated draft instructions for 2022. I would look at this, but it's from the IRS, and I don't want to have a look at anything from the IRS. I don't live in America, and so finding out the exact tax bracket, I'm gonna have to go through so many numbers and boring stuff that I just can't be bothered. Sorry, guys. If you do live in the US, follow this link. According to the IRS, digital assets are digital representations of value that are recorded on a cryptographically secure distributed ledger or any similar technology. For example, digital assets including NFTs and virtual currencies such as cryptocurrencies and stablecoins. So they basically just said, like, anything in the crypto space, anything blockchain related, etc. They further go on to say, oh, sorry, no, they don't. But to add on, with this development, the US joins countries like Singapore, Israel, and India, which also tax NFTs. So we are going to see taxing of NFTs, and I'm hoping that we're going to see a lot more regulation of NFTs. But just kind of going into this whole taxation and regulation, etc., looking here at JPM. So obviously, JPM I think they're a very manipulative player in this space, because they hate on crypto. They say that they're going to see a massive drop. They say crypto's a scam. They say Bitcoin's worthless, but then they go up and become, like, I think it was like the largest investor in Consensus, which is basically the guys who write Ethereum code. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. I'm pretty sure. They are like they're the number one guys when it comes to writing like smart contracts around about Ethereum. And so JP Morgan became the number one investor in them. And so it's weird that, they're kind of doing all this, but they are trying to get into this or get a hold of crypto regulation, because there's been a massive push, especially from the EU, pressuring the US, saying, hey, look, guys, give us some regulation, right? We're here trying to stop these Russian guys sending money in and out, but all your US exchanges keep allowing the Russians to trade cryptos. Not good. And so Aaron Levine, and you're like, okay, who's this guy? Maybe he's a upstanding citizen. He's working with Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan. See, okay, here, just mention that. Decentralized Ponzi schemes. Who's this guy? But he right? He spent 8 months earlier this year as head of policy and regulatory affairs for crypto lender Celsius. If he's head of policy and they went down the drain, and regulatory affairs, okay, this is one issue. It's rumored, don't know 100% for sure, but it's rumored that the CEO of Celsius was trading funds directly, being like, hey, you know what? We're all going down the toilet. I know what I'm doing. Let me trade, and end up making it a lot worse. And so to be the guy who's head of policy and regulatory affairs, surely you should be like, hey guys, that's not regulated. You're not a regulated trader. You're not, we're not a regulated entity. I don't know why this guy would move to JPM. Maybe it's one of these like, it's not who you know, it's not what you know, but who you know. But yeah, I think this is it does really show, guys, we are going to see regulation coming in soon. We are going to see taxation coming in soon. And overall, today we're seeing a very big risk off sentiment for the market. Let's see, just wrapping up, does Bloomberg have anything to say about this? Probably not, because it hasn't loaded and we're on an advert. But yeah, just basically a little bit more downside for the rest of the day. It's this risk off sentiment that is kind of taking hold here. Anyway, smash the like button. Thank you very much, guys. Here we go. Just
Ben,
quickly before I leave.
I was just
Oh,
going to add on to something at the end of that, if that's all right.
yes.
Yeah, sorry. So earlier in my stream, I know Cryptinvest did mention something, and I'll just bring it up very quickly. He was talking about an Adam and Eve pattern. I'm pretty sure this is what he was talking about. I missed it at the very end. I'd finished the live by then, but I think he was looking at this, which is something that is very is a high possibility trade that could actually play out. But what we tend to see with an Adam and Eve is we see a sharp spike down like this, and then we see the price sort of make a sort of cup type pattern like this, and then we see the price coming back up to this previous resistance here, and then the break of this resistance, we do tend to see the price push towards the upside. And just to show an example, this is what an Adam and Eve is. We have the Adam here, which is just a sort of like a sharp push towards the downside, and then we get more of a rounded cup shape, and then the breakout of this resistance is a good entry to enter a long position or the retest as well of that resistance. And yes, I did look at this, and it's very possible that we could see this. So far, it is a textbook Adam and Eve, but we'd like to see the price push up to around 25,000, where we either get rejected or we see the price push through there, and then we could see the price continue maybe to 32K. But right now, the market, and I'm sure Ben can agree, is looking more bearish than bullish. So yeah, I wouldn't expect this pattern to play out. But sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to answer that question for him.
No, I didn't know that you were here, so I looked on, I looked because I was not looking on one screen, and then I kind of looked back, and I'm like, oh, okay, here's AJ.
No, I thought I'd just answer that for him quickly.
Yeah,
Anyway,
thank
I'll let
you.
you finish.
Yeah, and so look, guys, thank you. Obviously, anyone who is watching, make sure you do like it; helps us out massively. And I will see you tomorrow. Make sure you trade safe. Remember, risk off today. Don't leverage longs too heavy. Always use protection when you're trading and in real life.